Hello guys, Dan here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I will do one of the most requested stuff to be painted on the channel, and that is Blue Wolf for the Jing army. I will try to copy the box art for this model, and I will paint it in the most traditional way with layering the paints. I won't use any washes because this model has so many flat panels, so using the washes is not that useful at this model. So let's start. Just for the beginning, I primed this model with the 3 layers or very thin coat of the black paint, and then I start doing the highlights. I will start working on the deepest parts of the model and start working towards the highest armor panels. So on this model the deepest parts is his under armor, and I will start highlighting it with the Basalt Grey. Actually, I will use this paint to highlight his weapon as well. On the gun you can use the side of your brush and try to highlight all the sharp edges, while on the rest of the armors you will try to highlight only the raised areas while still leaving the recesses black. And to finalize this highlight I will use the pure white color. I will highlight the same spots that I highlighted with the grey, but this time I will cover much less area just to create a final highlight. You don't actually want to overdo this step, so just go around the armor and just do a little dots and little lines here and there. When it comes to the weapon, I will use the side of my brush as a previous step, but this time I will do a little more lines than actually in the previous step. So I will try to highlight almost the whole areas that I highlighted with grey, but still I will leave some parts to be my shadows. For the fuel barrel and magazine, and as well as some details on the armor that I wanted to be a different shade of metal. Like I wanted for them to become like a blue metal, while the rest is like some kind of grey metal color. I will use the periscopes and I will just wash these parts very carefully. So I put 1 drop of the periscopes and like 4 drops of water, and I mix everything with my brush and I just applied a very light wash on the model. After wash has been dried, you can see that our highlights almost disappeared there. So I will go back to the white paint and I will just enhance these edge highlights on these parts. Now it's time to start working on his outer armor. I will start first with the green parts, and I will take heavy black green. Just paint all the armors and his head with this paint. Only thing here that we need to pay attention is that we are working over the black surface, so you will need to apply 2 very thin coats to have a good coverage. Try to get the even tone of your paint all around, and as well when you're working here try to leave all the recesses still black, as we are going to use them as our shadows while painting all the outer armor panels. So as you can see here, there is not actually a lot of areas that are needed to be painted in green. Now I will add a few drops of sunny skin tone in my color mix, just to get a little brighter tone of this green paint, and I will repaint these armor panels in this tone, and this will be my final tone of the armor. I will do only one more step to highlight the edges. So as you can see, I repainted most of the armor panels, like 90%. I left only the recesses still in the shadows and the areas that are under or they are naturally not exposed that much to the light. And to finish with this highlight, I added a few drops of ivory to the mix, so I get my final tone of the paint, and I did edge highlight of all the green armor panels. So wherever it's possible, use the side of your brush. Wherever it's not, you can just use the tip of your brush, do a little stippling, or just draw very thin lines. I highlighted the whole head, but later you will see that I will apply some stripes on it, so it will change a little. And with this we will finish these green parts of the armor panels. Now in the next step we'll proceed in painting the orange parts. For the base color I mix 50-50 cavalry brown and orange brown, and I will use this as my base paint, because if I start painting the orange brown straight on the black surface, it will be a little pain and I won't get a good coverage, because we are working over the black undercoat, and these paints are very bright, so you will see that black is protruding from under. So what will I do first? I will apply this in very thin layers. I used 3 very thin coats until I was satisfied with the tone of the color, and then I couldn't see any more black from under it. Also, I'm very careful here not to go inside the recesses or to damage any other paint job that I already did on this model. As I mentioned before, I won't use any wash, because if I use the wash, these armor panels are flat, so I will just have to repaint them again. So I will try to leave all the recesses intact, so that I have to do a lot less works on the shadows after. But let's start with the highlights first. As I said, I will use orange brown, and I will repaint all of these armor panels with this paint, because this will be my base paint for my armor, and I will start highlighting it from this color. The most areas I needed only one thin coat to have a good coverage, while only on his back I have to repaint it twice, because it's a big area and I diluted the paint too much. But this is the tone of color that you should aim to achieve. For my second highlight step, I will mix Scrofuluos brown, and later during that stage I will use the pure Scrofuluos brown, and I will start highlighting the panels. So I will highlight only the raised areas, like on this shoulder pad I will just highlight the top part, while I will left the side of that panel with the previous paint. As well, when you start working on his legs, you will try to paint this part of the leg that is most raised, while the parts of the leg that are going down and under, you will try to leave them in the previous paints. So you're going to apply this in a few very thin coats. Usually I do this in 2. or 3 very thin coats, but I wait for the previous coat completely to dry before apply a next one. That's how you're going to see like do you need to add more highlights or not. So this is like the look that I achieved with this step. And for the last highlight that we're going to do on these armor panels is to do the edge highlight. I will use ice yellow, and I will go very carefully around and try to highlight all the sharp edges wherever is that possible. Example here on his legs, there is no sharp edges on this armor on his upper leg, but there is distinction, and there is area that the two armors are separated from each other, so you will try to draw a very thin line and highlight both areas. And now for the third set of the armor panels that are left, I decided to paint them like in the off-white color, because as then on the art they look like they are like some white metallic parts, but I just decided to paint them in the off-white. So to start off, I used the Celestra Grey, and I carefully painted these armor panels in 2 very thin coats, just to have even coverage all around. You have to do this because, as I repeat again, because of the black undercoat. And I will use this paint as well to start painting the markings on this model. So I painted the ears on the helmet and all the facial things that they have. I tried to copy the box art as much as I could, and as well I painted the collar on the armor and the little stars on the chest. For these detail works, you can switch to a smaller brush if you have it. Otherwise, try to use only tip of your brush and try to make your hands as steady as possible. For the second step and my final color for these armor panels, I will use Ulthuan Grey, and actually I will repaint like 95% of the previous paint with this one. Since we already pre-painted this area with the Celestra Grey, this paint will be applied very easy and it will have a very good coverage, so you will have only to go with the one very thin coat and you will have a good result. I will also go on all these markings and the stripes all around that I already painted with this and just enhance them to be more brighter. And for the final highlight and little touches, you will use the pure white just to make the highlight where you want actually to see the little reflections. On these stripes and the collar you can use the edge highlight, while on the gauntlets just draw a little lines on the edges. You won't be able to see it actually in the video because of the color balance, but in the real life the distinction will be really visible. For all the LEDs that are on the armor, I will use Escorpena green, and I will just fill out those little holes that you have on the armor for those lights, while on the gauntlets I will just paint them fully with this paint. When you start filling those holes, don't be scared if you paint the area around it. You can just leave it because it will create the effect of the light. And to highlight them, just take the ice yellow and put one or two very little dots in the middle. There is a few parts on the tank, on his back and his eyes that I wanted to paint them red. So to start, I will apply first one very thin coat of Mephiston Red, just for me to be easier later to paint the second layer of red on top of it. Just be careful and apply one very thin coat of the Mephiston Red on these parts. When you start working on the eyes, try to switch to a smaller brush because the holes are small and you don't want actually to mess it and go on the green and white parts that you already painted. And for the highlight, I will just use Evil Sunz Scarlet, and I will repaint these parts again. Now it's time to start working on the clothes. I will just base paint them with the light sea blue. This color for me have a really nice coverage, so as you can see, without any problems I applied one thin coat and it already have a good tone. So I waited this for completely to dry before I proceed to the next step. And I applied a little of sky blue in the middle of the clothes to start having a reflection, and then I start mixing light sea blue with the sky blue on the sides and try to blend this to create a transition between the rest of the cloth and this highlighted space. As you can see here, I decided to make it a little wider, so I was just going back and forth, adding and mixing both colors while I created a transition that I was happy at the end. And for the last thing, I will use pure white and just highlight all the edges on the clothes. I will use edge of my brush as much as possible, and to create the final reflection I will just draw a very thin white line in the middle of my reflection spot that I highlighted before. And the last thing that needs to be done is to paint this stone that he's standing on. For this I just pick up all the colors that are on my wet palette from the previous steps that I used. Then I just mix all the colors together and I painted this rock. And I just used a little of Nuln Oil to shade it, and I will just leave it like that because I will cover it with the snow. If you're interested how I did the base, I will include the link to that video in the description down below. And guys, that will be it for this paint job. I have to say that this model is amazing and I really enjoyed painting it. It didn't took me actually a while. I think I finished it, like I started working early morning around 10-11 and I finished it by like 7-8 in the evening already, because it was so interesting and I just couldn't stop painting. Guys, if you enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content from me. And for the end, please, if you have any comments or suggestions or you would like to see any other tag painted or any other model, please let me know in the comment section down below and I will try to do my best. This is all for now, guys. Happy holidays, stay safe, take care, and see you soon. Bye bye.